What's up guys, today we're going to be unboxing the Poco F5 and just checking it out. This is a very interesting phone because it's sort of like a flagship killer type of phone and it's really interesting. So I picked this up for $350. They typically go for $400 and let's just check it out and see what it's all about. It's got a Snapdragon 7 plus a Gen 2 processor on here, which is pretty cool for this price point actually. It's got a lot of pretty good specs, so pretty excited to show you this phone and compare it to even some older flagships because it's sort of in that price range. So it's pretty interesting. So we got our SIM ejector tool. See here, it looks like a screen protector. It's pretty nice. Paperwork comes with a nice little soft case. Alright, and then we got the phone itself here. Let's toss that to the side. This phone also does have a 67-watt charger in it. 67-watt charger. It's got the you have the adapter if you live in the US, so you have the right plug, and of course, you know, USB type C. So that's actually pretty good. You actually get stuff in the box. That's one thing I like about Xiaomi. So here is the phone itself, and right off the rip, this is a super light phone, and I could tell because it's all plastic. So the whole phone is plastic. There's no metal anywhere around this phone. So I'm pretty sure that's where they cut a majority of the cost with this guy. It's IP53 dust and splash proof. See if we got any type of power on here, and yeah, it's just super light. So yeah, but overall pretty nice design for the most part. Really big cameras on here. Alright, so I'm gonna boot this up and let's see what this phone is all about. Alright, so I'm all set up here, and I forgot to mention to you guys, there is a headphone jack up here, which is pretty cool for this phone to have a headphone jack, and there is also an IR blaster, which you guys know I really love here. But let's go ahead and just dive into the specs of this phone. So the display is another area where I thought that they would cut corners, but they did not. This has an AMOLED display. It's 120 Hertz. It's got a max brightness of 1000 nits, 6.67 inches, and then you also have 1080p for the resolution, 395 for the PPI. Pretty respectable bezels on here, punch hole in the middle, and it just looks fantastic. It's a really nice looking display, completely flat as well too. So the display on here is pretty nice for the most part. Really impressed. I thought they were going to cut corners as far as the display goes. Alright guys, let's talk about the star of the show, and that is the processor here. It has the Android 13 MIUI 14 on top of the Snapdragon 7 Plus Gen 2 processor, Adreno 725 GPU, no SD card support. This model has 256 gigs of internal storage and 12 gigs of RAM, and that 256 is the standard storage configuration. And this thing is really fast. Even with games, we're able to play PUBG at 90 frames very easily. It pretty much just blows through Android in general, basically just loading up tasks and stuff like that. Like I said, gaming performance is going to be top notch on this phone, and this is a phone you could really keep for a very long time because you know it's going to be super fast. And let's go ahead and talk about and bring up that Geekbench score so you guys can actually see the score that I'm getting here. So you can see pretty good score, almost 4,000 on the multi-core, as you guys can see here, and you can see how it compares to even some older flagships like some of my favorites, the S21 Ultra and the S20 Plus, Note 20. You can see how it compares to those phones. So this is a pretty fast phone. And let's talk about MIUI a little bit here. So like I said, it's been pretty fast. We're on MIUI 14, and I don't have any major issues with MIUI in particular. Like, there's things like, I know a lot of you guys don't like the launcher and stuff like that, but there wasn't a whole bunch of bloatware and stuff like that on this phone, like, you know, pre-installed apps and stuff, so that was pretty good. But I know some of you guys like MIUI, some of you guys don't. But yeah, so far performance wise, like I said, with MIUI it's pretty good. Like I said, we're on MIUI 14. So overall, it's not, the experience has been pretty good. It's a, like I said, pretty fast phone. Stereo speakers on here. We got them at max volume. Let's check them out. Pretty good speakers. Again, nothing too crazy. They sound full. Pretty decent bass. Just sound like, you know, pretty decent speakers. Nothing too crazy. This phone also has a fingerprint scanner. It's a physical fingerprint scanner. My favorite implementation because it just feels extremely natural when you do it like this instead of the in-display one. So I absolutely love this. You know, when I first was able to really enjoy it on the Galaxy S10e. I just became a big fan of it. And then you also have on here, this phone is not waterproof. So that is also another area where, you know, it cuts cost a little bit. So if you do like drop it in a pool or something, you will probably break it. It's IP53 dust and splash proof. So basically what that means is you can, you know, bring it out in the rain and it shouldn't break or anything like that. But yeah, so I would definitely be cautious if you are like at the pool or whatever. All right, so let's talk about the cameras because this is also another area where you want to see if they cut corners here as well too. But I thought the cameras were pretty good. I would have to compare it to some of my other favorite phones around this, you know, $300 or really $400 price point. But this phone has a 64 megapixel standard, 8 megapixel ultra wide, and a 2 megapixel macro. So no dedicated telephoto lens. It's got 4K 30 for the video, and then you also have 16 megapixel selfie cam that shoots in 1080 60. So as far as these stills go, I thought the stills came out pretty nice for the most part. Definitely was not disappointed in image quality here. I think for a point and click camera, you get some pretty good shots here. Now it does look like for like the selfie cam, I thought it like, I don't know, I thought it was a little soft and did a little bit of skin like lightening or something like that. But overall the ultra wide was somewhat decent. Like I said, I would have to compare it to some of my other favorite phones, but the image quality itself was really not that bad. I can't really complain about it. Pretty good dynamic range, pretty accurate color on here. Again, no dedicated zoom lens or anything like that, so you're not going to get the best, you know, zoom quality on this phone for sure. But as far as a point and click camera, I thought it did a pretty decent job. And just make sure you guys stay tuned because we are going to compare it and see how it compares to some other phones. Alright, so let's talk about the battery on this phone. It's got a 5,000 milliamp battery, which is pretty nice. Pretty big battery, and just watching the way it drains, it definitely looks like an all-day phone for sure. And then you also have 67 watt charging on here, which this phone charges very, very fast, so that's also pretty impressive. And then also, obviously, you're gonna lack wireless charging. That's another area where they cut, but battery life seems to be really good on this phone so far, just using it. So yeah, so this overall, my first impressions, pretty nice phone for the price. Like, it's got a really fast chip. It surprisingly has a headphone jack. I think like the only thing, I think the icing on the cake would have been like an SD card support, would have put this phone kind of over the top. But what do you guys think?